Today's episode is all about the GoPro Hero 6 coming up. What's up guys, I'm Scotty with Scotty Goes Pro. On this channel I talk about everything related to GoPro, from tips, tricks, hacks, and how-tos. You name it and I try to cover it here. But today's episode I'm so excited for. It's all about the GoPro Hero 6. This video is just an overview of what to expect and the different specs with the Hero 6. What are the major differences between the Hero 5 and the Hero 6? I have 11 main topics that I want to talk about today. Now, like I said, this is just an overview, so I'm just hitting the highlights, but each one of these topics that I talk about today, I will cover more in depth in a future video that will be coming out over the next few days, next few weeks. I'm going to be pumping out as many of these videos as I can. So if you haven't subscribed to this channel already and you want to get as much information about the GoPro Hero 6 as you can, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on some pretty good future content that's going to be coming out real soon. Now, I just want to point out that this camera was not sent to me by GoPro. I went to Best Buy this past weekend while on vacation and purchased it with my own money. So I'm not obligated to say anything, positive or negative about the Hero. I'm just letting you know what to expect if you buy this camera. So let's go ahead and jump into this with number one. The first big difference between the Hero 5 and the Hero 6 is now you get 4K at 60 frames per second versus the Hero 5 where you only got 4K at 30 frames per second. Now there are some limitations to these new frame rates at 60 frames per second. You only get wide mode with the Hero 6. You don't get linear, you don't get super view and all those other modes. You only get the wide mode. But the cool thing about the Hero 6 is that you get stabilization at 4K 30 frames per second. You don't get that at the 60 frames per second, but you do get it at the 30 versus the Hero 5 didn't give you stabilization at all at 4K. And number two, now you get 2.7K at 120 frames per second and 1080p up to 240 frames per second. Now again, you don't get stabilization at these high frame rates. With the 2.7K, you only get stabilization up to 60 frames per second, and at 1080p, you only get stabilization up to 120 frames per second. So if you're using those higher frame rates, you have to make sure you keep the camera much more steady. Number three on this list, you get better image stabilization all the way up to 4K 30 frames per second, as I just said a moment ago. Now the stabilization is still software based, so it's all computerized inside the camera doing this with their computer chip. The GoPro Hero 6 has a new GP1 chip, which is fantastic. Also a cool new feature with the Hero 6 is that when you're using stabilization on wide mode, it only crops it down to 5%. With the GoPro Hero 5, it would crop to 10%. So now you get better stabilization with less crop on your image. Number four. GoPro says that the Hero 6 offers better low light performance. Now, I haven't had much time to mess around with this, but I will in the future, and I'll get back to you. Number five, the new GoPro Hero 6 uses high dynamic range imaging, also known as HDR. Now, basically what this means is that you just get better image quality from your pictures and your video. So the HDR allows more color, more contrast between the whites and the blacks. It allows more color in there, so you just get fabulous video. And I can tell you for sure, this was the first thing that I noticed with this Hero 6 when I first turned it on, is how much everything stands out and pops. This will really cut back on how much post-editing you'll have to do on the computer after you make these videos. Also, using this HDR and GoPro's new GP1 chip, it also allows for better adjustment from really bright areas to dark areas. It really adjusts so much quicker than the Hero 5. Number six, the GoPro Hero 6 offers an HDR picture mode when you're taking photos. Now, if you've owned an iPhone or any other smartphone over the years, you probably noticed that in the picture mode, you can take an HDR picture, which is basically just taking your pictures and adding all this high dynamic range to it. Now, some people like this look, some people don't. So, you'll just have to take some time to play around with it. I haven't had much time, but I will, and I'll follow up on another video coming up soon. Number seven, one of the coolest new features is now that you can zoom in on most of your video modes. Now, this is limited again to certain modes. You can't do it in super view. You can't do it on certain frames per second. This is a slide to zoom type of thing, and you can only do it before you start recording. As far as I know, once you hit that record button, you can't zoom in and zoom out like you can on a traditional camera. You have to set this up before you actually start recording. But it is a really cool option, and I think people will have a lot of fun with this, especially certain types of videos where you really want to zoom in on something close. Number 8. Now GoPro claimed that the GoPro Hero 6 has new voice commands, but I've only been able to find one, and that is now you can turn on your GoPro by telling it to turn on. Other than that, all the voice commands are exactly the same. So you do have that one new option which you can turn on your camera by telling it to turn on. Number 9. The GoPro Hero 6 comes with a dual Wi-Fi chip for faster downloading. It can now download from your camera to your phone at either 2.4 gigahertz or 5 gigahertz. I don't know if you can change this manually or if the GoPro just does it itself depending on what you're trying to download, but I can tell that the download speed from your camera to your phone is much faster than with the Hero 5. Number 10. I think most people will be really glad to hear this, that the Hero 6 is backwards compatible with the Hero 5, meaning if you have a bunch of Hero 5 batteries, they work on the Hero 6. If you have a few extra lens covers, they work with the Hero 5, work with the Hero 6, and the side doors, everything, all the accessories, all the casings, everything that you get with the Hero 6 or that you already have with your 5 will work with your Hero 6. The only difference that I've really noticed with these batteries is that the GoPro Hero 6 battery says 2017 on it, and the Hero 5 battery says 2016. Other than that, it's exactly the same. Number 11. Now, I have not played with this option at all, but GoPro claims that now the Hero 6 uses face recognition in order to make your quick stories much better. Now, you've probably already seen that GoPro is really pushing this quick stories or this quick app that you can download your footage straight to your phone and it makes this cool little story for you. So being able to use the face recognition is a very cool feature with that, because if you download, say, 10 videos to your phone, let the app do all the processing for you and make a story, a lot of times if you have dead time in those videos, it puts those dead times. So if you're moving the camera around, that may be put in your video. So you have to go back and do extra editing to really fine tune those edits. So if the camera is using the face recognition, maybe it can cut out all that dead time, only get the cool moments. And I think it's supposed to use the GPS to make those videos too, to help with the editing. So if you speed up, it's supposed to, recognize that and put it in the clips. If you're slowing down, or if a crowd is yelling and they know something good is going on, it's supposed to add all of those into the edit. So that is something else that I'll have to play around with and get back to you on a future video. So guys, that about wraps it up for today's video. So if maybe you're trying to decide if you want to upgrade from your Hero 5 to your 6, hopefully this helped answer some of your questions and will help you make a decision. Now, like I said earlier, I'm going to go back and talk about each one of these topics that I talked about in this video much more in depth. However, if there are other videos that you would like for me to put out, other comparisons, what do you want to know specifically from the Hero 5 to the Hero 6? What do you want me to compare side by side? Whatever questions you have, please leave those down in the comments section below. That way I can make sure to get to those and get those videos out to you guys, because you are the ones with the questions, and this is why I'm here to help you guys out. And as usual, if this video was helpful for you, go ahead and hit that thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed already, again, please consider doing so you don't miss out on future content. And I'll see you next time, guys. I got to get back to work.